Sponsored by Pfizer.
Hi, and welcome to the 981st episode of Brad's Busy Bees. I'm Eliza Debjaleski.
I'm Sophie Hagedorn.
I'm Emma Cherry, and today's episode is called Should College Athletes Be Paid?
Today we are going to talk about the hot topic of whether or not college athletes should be paid. This is very important in our day and time due to so many sports being broadcasted, which has created a lot of attention to the players. Although the NCAA profits from these sporting events, the players, however, do not. Instead, they are working on college studies while trying to maintain a good grade and some sort of income so that they can play the sports we love to watch.
I believe that college athletes should be paid because they would be able to earn a steady income and would be able to provide money for certain needs, including food, living expenses, and college expenses. College athletes have no time for a steady job, so they make little to no money, and therefore cannot afford basic needs. A study conducted by the National College Players Association stated that 86% of college athletes live below the poverty line. So if athletes were provided with money, they could use it personally or help out their own families, since many college athletes come from low-income households. Paying athletes would give them an actual job. If athletes saw their sport as a job, then they would be more likely to stay longer. They would have a reason to stay and would be able to obtain sufficient funding. If athletes stay longer, they could develop their skills to a point where they could go further in their career and may even play professionally. The NCAA has enough money to pay their athletes. It's just a matter of they want to or not. Research conducted by Money Nation, a net worth and salary tracking website, stated that the NCAA makes about $1 billion per year. College athletics as a whole pulls in about $12 billion annually. So the NCAA is depriving college athletes of their due. If each athlete is worth several digits, then they should be paid. The only downside to this is that if college athletes are being paid, there's a potential that they could decrease the amount of effort and work they put into their actual college education. Some athletes would not show up for classes and would put their education on hold because they already have a job. The point of a college is to develop skills and educational values in hopes of having a job. If the college athletes already feel as if they have a job, they would see their classes as unnecessary. Also, due to college athletes' busy schedules, full of practices and games, they might skip out on their classes in order to rest or prepare for upcoming events. Some athletes spend up to 40 hours a week practicing. They might prioritize their life as an athlete rather than their life as a student. This could greatly hurt their education in future. What are your opinions on this matter? Personally, I feel as if paying college athletes would prevent agents from acquiring athletes as their clients, which would, in turn, potentially corrupt the NCAA. If college athletes have agents, they're most likely going to be getting paid in secret. The agents even need to be paid, so athletes would be willing to hand over a certain percentage of their earnings to them. This would cause potential scandals and unnecessary investigations of the NCAA. For example, back in 2010, Cam Newton, a college football player, was under investigation for allegedly seeking improper benefits while being recruited by schools. He was being paid for playing, which violated NCAA rules. If the NCAA wants athletes to comply with the rules, then paying them could ensure this. But if agencies other than the NCAA became a part of college sports, then the control and regulation of players would not come directly from the NCAA. This could even cause conflict with athletes. Some could be illegally paid while others aren't paid. If college athletes were paid, then there'd be no need for agents and other outside entities besides the NCAA. Another reason they should be paid is because of all the hard work and dedication these athletes put into sports they're participating in. They put in time and labor every day of the week. Paying them what's due would give these athletes a job and would help them find some sort of funding. College athletes are bringing large sums of money to the colleges they're supporting, so if they play, they might as well get paid. An article from HuffingtonPost.com stated that Ed O'Bannon, a retired professional basketball player, and 19 others sued the NCAA, claiming the organization violated United States antitrust laws by not allowing athletes to get a share of the revenues generated from the use of their images in broadcasts and video games. To that extent, the players should be paid because the NCAA used them in advertising and other activities that typically generate revenue. It's not fair that they are not only making the NCAA money on the court, but also off of it. But one con I believe would come with paying college players would be that these athletes would not spend their money on the proper things. I'm not saying that all athletes would waste their money, but some athletes would spend their money earned the wrong way.
Since they're only in college, it's still a very young age to carry that type of financial responsibility and to spend it wisely. Paying athletes could get out of hand and could create irresponsible college students. Sophie, what's your opinion on this matter of paying college athletes?
Well, I believe that negatively, college athletes would have the potential to be paid unequally for their jobs in comparison to athletes in the same sport as them, or even athletes who play a different sport. I don't believe all athletes would be paid in the same way, and I don't know how the NCAA would decide on how to pay these athletes. I believe that if athletes who played on the same team were compensated differently, then at least one of the athletes would be unhappy with the amount of money they're receiving. If one athlete on the team is considered the best on the team, they would most likely be receiving the most money out of all the teammates. That's how it works in professional basketball too. For example, Boston Celtics player Gordon Hayward earns a net pay of $14,747,006, while his teammate Al Horford only earns a net pay of $14,357,262. There's a clear line of difference in their pay. Some teammates can have a gap of hundreds to thousands to millions of dollars. Imagine college basketball. There would be a gap between players' paychecks also. There are many factors that come into play when it comes to proper compensation of college athletes. Another con that comes with paying college athletes would include the potential for a decrease in stamina and overall performance from individual athletes. Athletes could not try as hard in their athletic performance if they knew that they were going to get paid anyway. At this time, where college athletes are not getting paid, they are doing it for school pride and for the love of the game, and seeing it as a way to build up their future careers. Paid college athletes could lose that school pride and see it as a means for money, whether they put effort into it or not. That sound you just heard means it is time for our guest speaker. Today we have an expert on the subject, Brad Keene. Hello, Brad. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me on your show today. I'm excited to be here.
So, Brad, today we are discussing college athletes and whether or not they should be paid. What's your professional opinion on this?
Well, this is a question I have been asked many times, and whether you choose to either pay or not to pay college athletes, both could and will have serious downfalls. However, there are many perks to both options. To start, we need to understand the NCAA money margin. In the year 2017, the NCAA raked in nearly $1 billion, most of which came from the men's basketball tournament. The NCAA website says that it spends about $960 million back into scholarships, officials, Division 1/2 schools, and Division 1 performance camps. This leaves about $40 million left over for the NCAA to do whatever with. For example, pay athletes. Now that we know that the NCAA makes this extra money, what about paying the athletes? Like I said before, both options have their many pros and cons. First, we should talk about some of the pros of paying the college athletes. For example, college athletes are oftentimes consumed by their work as a student and as a player. For example, the average college athlete spends about 40 hours a week practicing in total, despite the NCAA's 20-hour-per-week practice rule, which is twice the amount of time the average job of a college... 40 hours is about twice the amount of time the average job of a college student requires, who doesn't play sports. The athlete, for their hard work and commitment to a specific sport, helps the athlete to make ends meet. And if they spend all of their time practicing and doing their schoolwork, they don't really have time to go to a job to make money for themselves. However, a negative effect of paying college athletes is that they lose their ability to develop crucial time management skills. They don't have to worry about trying to manage their time to fit a job into their schedule, so they don't really learn how to plan for later in life.
Okay, thank you for that information. While we take a short break, we're going to have the question of the day. Here it is.
After you take away the bread, cheese, lettuce, tomatoes, and mayonnaise, what have you got?
Well, does anyone know what the answer is for that question?
I have no idea, but I'm very curious to see what the answer is.
A fax machine.
Wow, I was not expecting that to be the answer. Okay, let's continue with the interview. Brad, is there any more information you can tell us about paying college athletes?
As I mentioned earlier, there are also positive and negative effects to not paying college athletes as well. For example, I mentioned how the time management would be a negative effect of paying college athletes because they wouldn't develop the crucial time management skills that are used in everyday life for every single person on the planet. Without these crucial skills, these athletes will have no idea how to properly balance their life. A positive of not paying college athletes is that it motivates them to play harder in their sports and to work harder in the classroom. Without pay, they will be motivated because they know they will either need to become a better player to move on to higher levels or become professional, or they will be motivated
After you take away
or they will be motivated to become an excellent student so that they can get good paying job after college. Overall, college athletes being paid comes with several pros and several cons.
Okay, Brad. Thank you for joining us today and letting us interview you and providing us with more information on whether or not college athletes should be paid.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for stopping by. Also, a big thank you to those who listened in today, and a reminder to tune in next week.
Yep, next week we will be discussing the retirement of football players and what retirement is like.
This has been another episode of Brad's Busy Bees. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, bye-bye.